Assalamu alaikum everyone. So in today's video I'll be talking about Hussein. He is a ex-Muslim and he has a YouTube channel in which he tries to refute Islam and the evidences and the arguments for Islam. And I'll be talking about this video, is the Quran a miracle? And I'll try to show how he doesn't actually know what he's talking about regarding the linguistic miracle of the Quran, and also the scientific miracle or the scientific approach that people take of the Quran. But this will be mainly about the linguistic miracle and how he should not be talking about. And the way I'll show this is that he makes false arguments and he actually makes mistake regarding the Arabic language. So let's begin.
There are two basic claims put forward as proof that the Qur'an is a miracle from God. The traditional one is that the Qur'an's eloquence and beauty is beyond the ability of a human being to produce. The second and more modern claim is that the Qur'an reveals scientific facts long before they were discovered.
Okay, so the video just started and he's wrong right off the bat. He just started the video and it's wrong. This goes to show that he is not well read on this topic. The Quranic miracle is not just about rhetorical beauty, but it also has to do with the style, pattern, composition of the Arabic language. So him saying that it's about beauty and rhetorics alone is false. As on the screen you can see even classical Arabic linguists and even modern Arabic linguists saying the same or similar thing. As you can see, even non-Muslim say the same thing as Professor Bruce Lawrence. So him making that point is not even valid.
Firstly, a great deal is made of Muhammad being illiterate, as if that means he couldn't have composed the Qur'an. Actually, most people were illiterate in 7th century Arabia. Knowledge and skills were passed on orally. Reading and writing was not an essential skill. And the pre-Islamic poets, for example, were famed for composing poems about an event or a person on the spot. Considering Muhammad came out with the Qur'an over a period of 23 years, there's nothing miraculous about that.
Him claiming that just goes to show he doesn't know pre-Islamic Arabia really. In pre-Islamic Arabia, people used to worship poetry. They used to literally hang it in the Kaaba, and they used to send their children out to Bedouin tribes who were expert and would teach poetry. So because poetry was looked at some an art form that could change the condition of a whole tribe, and as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's history has been recorded so well, we do not find any such narration that shows that he was educated on poetry or he was well read on poetry. Well, it shows the opposite thing instead, that he didn't used to like poetry that much.
Challenge to produce a verse or chapter like it if you are truthful. One of the problems with this challenge is that it can't be tested objectively. In my opinion, many works surpass the Qur'an, in Arabic and other languages. Muslims, of course, have a different opinion. Another problem is that if the challenge is to actually produce something exactly like the Qur'an, then this is impossible, because literary works always contain the fingerprints of their authors. It may be true that no one can bring something exactly like the Qur'an, but then no one can bring something exactly like the works of Plato, Al-Jahiz, At-Tawhidi, Dante, Goethe, or Shakespeare.
Okay, so now he's saying that it cannot be tested or replicated objectively because there is no objective standard. Well, that is not really true, because we know, and the scholars have also agreed on this, that it should contain similar style, rhetorics, composition, and pattern. This is a objective standard that can be that should be able to be replicated with the same language. And by the way, Shakespeare's genre and style has been replicated, and that's the consensus of all English linguists. And here you can see that other authors have been able to imitate his genre and style.
Personally, I do find the Qur'an eloquent and moving in places, but I also find it weak and badly constructed in other places.
Okay, let's see what you mean. You must surely be very educated in the Arabic language to claim that. Let's see if you are. Go ahead.
أنزل من السماء ماء فأخرجنا به نبات كل شيء فأخرجنا منه خضرا ونخرج منه حبا متراكبا.
You have to be joking right now. Did you guys catch that? Let's hear it once more.
منه خضرا ونخرج منه حبا متراكبا.
Hopefully this is a joke. So this guy makes a whole channel and a whole video on if Quran is a linguistic miracle and tries to refute that claim, yet he cannot read basic Arabic of the Quran.
منه خضرا ونخرج منه حبا متراكبا.
Even if I ignore all the tajweed mistakes that he make, he still adds a letter where it just does not exist.
منه خضرا ونخرج منه حبا.
Okay, so as you all heard, he said خضرا ونخرج منه. It's not خضرا ونخرج منه. It's clearly خضرا نخرج منه. There's no wa in it. He just adds wa. It does not exist, but he just adds it because he doesn't know how to read. This is a childish mistake. My 10-year-old cousin wouldn't make this mistake. I am not even an Arab and I wouldn't make this mistake. He is not qualified.
It is he who sends down water from the skies, then we bring forth with it buds of every kind, then we bring forth with it green foliage, from which we bring forth grain piled up. Had you or I written this, we would be accused of ignorance. But if it comes from the Qur'an, then it's hailed as miraculous eloquence, and the grammarians created a special category called iltifat, meaning sudden transition.
Okay, first of all, I have to give credit to Farid's response for this refutation of the argument. So if we look at Al-Thakaki, he explains that iltifat were used by pre-Islamic poets as well. This wasn't something made specially for the Quran. It just showed that Hassan Radwan does not understand Arabic rhetoric. But the funniest part is that he said this was specially made up for the Quran. If you look up anywhere and if you studied Arabic rhetorics, this was not specially made up for the Quran. This already existed, and I will show you that. As you can see, As-Sakaki mentioned few pre-Islamic poets who used to use ittifat in their writings, such as Rabi bin Maqrum, Auf bin al-Ahwath, Abdullah bin Anama. So it already existed. So he's just making up stuff to sound smart.
Of course they made errors, but are the Qur'an's brief and ambiguous references really free from error?
Yes, that is exactly the point. As it is ambiguous, you can never objectively say that it is wrong. The fact that it is ambiguous just means that exact point. So you saying that is it wrong or right and then going ahead and saying it's ambiguous, it just doesn't follow using your own reasoning. So okay, yeah, I agree, you cannot call it objectively a miracle, but you can never claim it to be objectively wrong. But the amazing part is that even though you cannot call it objectively a miracle, the fact that there are multiple interpretations of multiple verses, but there you can always find an interpretation that is very much in line with modern understanding of science, or very much consistent with the paradigm, just goes to show that it is most likely true or miraculous. Because you see, you cannot claim it to be objectively false, because science, first of all, is inductive by nature. But a book that is 1400 years old has multiple interpretations that can and are in line with modern understanding of science. Because a book that is 1400 years old should have at least had a single verse with multiple interpretations, but all the interpretations were wrong. But it doesn't.
Even then, many rejected the Qur'an's claim to be a miracle, and I've included some quotes in the info box.
Okay, so to understand the Quranic miracle, I've put the argument into a syllogistic format. So the way you can call it a miracle is that you should be able to replicate the Quran if you have the same raw materials, which are the language and the linguistic tools, the blueprint, which is the Quran, and the same people, basically expert in the language. And if you cannot, you should at least be able to naturalistically explain why you cannot. And if you cannot do that, then it is a literal miracle. Okay, so these are the quotes, and now we know why Quran, we can call Quran a miracle. It will be easier for us to refute these quotes. First of all, we can ignore the first, third, fourth, and fifth because let's, for example, take the first quote. It does not refute the inimitability of the Quranic challenge because it just quotes that the Quran eloquence is not a miracle because it can be imitated. But the thing is that the Quranic miracle also depends on the structure, the style, and rhetorics, and many other things. So this doesn't really refute it. Okay, same or refutation can be made of the fourth one, which is Ibn al-Rawandi, who is a Mu'tazili scholar, not a Arabic linguist. He says that it has mistakes. Well, even if it has mistakes, you should still be able to imitate it because of the fact that you can make mistakes yourself on purpose to imitate something. So it doesn't really refute it, but it doesn't have mistakes because he doesn't point them out. And by the way, Ibn al-Rawadi and Ibn Musa are Mu'tazili scholars, not linguists. The only quote that can cause an issue is Ibn Musa, but as I said that he is not a linguist, he is a Mu'tazili scholar. He, by the way, in one of the sources that Hassan Radwan showed us, it calls him a Mu'tazili monk, not even a Mu'tazili scholar. And he says that it can be imitated in rhetoric, diction, and eloquence and composition as well. And the reason Ibn Musa used to believe that, and we can see here, is because he thought that anyone who said that the Quran is not created and is not imitable that we have with us, it has a dualistic view and is bringing something at the level to God and is a kafir. So he had a philosophical reasoning to say that. Now that I have refuted it, we can clearly see that Hassan Radwan had no clue what he was talking about, and hope that people don't send me his video anymore. I have clearly shown that Hassan Radwan has no qualification in the Arabic language and should not be taken seriously when it comes to his refutation on this topic, and also why his refutation were not valid. That's it for me from now. I hope you guys have a great Ramadan. Ma salama.